Hi, I'm John Waterhouse. Welcome to Weekday Wisdom. I have a question for you. How do you deal with conditions in your life that you don't want? I'll say that again. How do you deal with conditions in your life that you don't want? We all have conditions. We all have circumstances that we would rather not have to deal with. But having these things go on, challenges as such, is part of the human experience. Not knowing what to do when a challenge arises is normal, especially if you've never gone through that kind of challenge before. It's essential to our spiritual awareness that we have challenges. If life was always sweetness and light, we would never learn anything. We would never grow. We would never deepen our experience. So it's through these challenges that something wonderful can happen. Now, I know that there are some challenges that we are delighted to have. We're great to have a new project to work on. That's not the kind of challenges I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones that show up uninvited, and yet there they are. Now, I've always taught that we create our own experience. So at some level, I'm suggesting that you are creating the challenges in your life, even the ones you don't want. So what I'm learning from my experience with my beautiful wife, Barbara, is that having had this stroke that she's had does not define her. It's what she does about it that is helping create her life and making her life meaningful and purposeful. We are not defined by what we have happen. We are defined by remembering who we are and acting with that awareness. An example in the history of the United States is our three most revered presidents, Washington, Lincoln, and Franklin Roosevelt, are all the ones that led our country through its darkest hours and found success on the other side of that. At the time, some of them could have been blamed for what was going on, but that's not the case. The truth is that they found a way to get through it. Now, Barbara's approaching the 6-month mark since her stroke. And they used to say that 6 months was about what the time period that you could expect to have improvement. Now they're saying it's a year, but the greater truth is, and my research shows that the work that we do in this kind of recovery doesn't have an endpoint, that we can always find improvement. So Barbara's working diligently to find her way with this thing and to be successful in her life, even as she recovers from this stroke. She's made incredible progress, and I've just been delighted to see all that she's been able to do. When she first had the stroke, she couldn't hardly speak and couldn't sit up on the side of the bed without help. Now she's walking around with a cane. She's speaking very clearly, finding most every word she's looking for, and occasionally dazzling me by coming up with some 5-syllable word. She knows who she is, and she lives according to that understanding every day. Now, I will say that she's continuing to be challenged with her right arm and hand. Her therapists tell her that that's the last thing that she'll get back. I don't know whether that is suggestive or prophetic, but either way, that seems to be what's happening. But that doesn't stop her. At least 5 times a day, she exercises that hand. And she moves it, and she straightens it, and she works with it to keep it mobile as she can. And she's making progress. It's just slow, but her vigilance is inspiring. What she's doing is defining her. And at the same time, I see her having a joyous life. She's spending a lot of time with her sister. She sees her son and his family on a regular basis. And when she's having these experiences, you can just see the delight on her face. And she and I are doing pretty well along the way as well. I don't know how many times a day I tell her I love her, and she tells me the same, that we are deeply connected, and that this that she is going through physically does not change that in one slight bit. If anything, it makes our love stronger for one another. It certainly helps us be reliant more on one another. Barbara lives her life every day in the lightness of being that many people don't ever even experience. She's got this figured out, and she's doing her work, and she's really a model and example for all of us. So to close this thought, I want to tell you a little story about a great teacher who once had an apprentice student who was a complainer, who seemed to be in pain all the time, always finding problems. And one day, as the student was telling his teacher about his complaints and the problems and the woes of his life, the teacher instructed the student to get up and go get a glass of water and a bowl of salt. The student did as instructed and brought that back. The teacher said, take a handful of salt out of the bowl and put it in the glass of water. The student did as instructed. The teacher said, now drink from the glass. So the teacher watched as the student puckered up as he drank the salt water. Teacher said, how's it taste? The student said, bitter. The teacher then said, okay, walk with me and bring your bowl of salt with you. And they walked down to a nearby lake. The teacher instructed the student to go into the water and to empty his bowl, which was still a considerable amount of salt, into the water of the lake and swirl it around. He did as instructed. The teacher said, now taste the water. So the student cupped his hands and drank from the water in the lake. How does it taste? The student said, fresh. The teacher said, that's the point I want to make, is that you will always have pain. There will always be discomfort in life because that's part of life. The question is, what kind of container is your consciousness to receive those experiences? Is your consciousness more like a glass? Is it small? Or is your consciousness expansive, like a lake? The pain is going to come. That's part of life. But it's the container that will make the difference. Don't be the glass of water. Be the lake. And I invite you to do the same. I hope this little story was helpful. It's been good to have a few moments with you. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you.